In this episode, we use a 3,000 psi pressure washer to clean Project Dirty Jeep under the hood, on the outside, and on the inside. This was a bad idea. You probably shouldn't try this at home. So after soaking up the sun for months in the Nevada desert, the whole Jeep, including the engine, was just covered in silt. And the thing with silt is that you can't just hose it off, you can't just wash it off. You actually have to scrub it to get the silt off. So first step is to wet everything down, try to blow off as much as you can, and the next step is to get some soapy water and wash the engine just like you would the outside, just to try and get as much as you can off. But there's silt in all the nooks and crannies. There's just silt in everything, and it just sticks. It is really hard to get out. You want to remember too, you want to wash all the painted surfaces. The underside of the hood is also a painted surface. There's a big felt insulation blanket under it that gets dirty, it collects dust, but it's important to clean all that off and keep it just as clean as you do the outside of the body. Keep in mind, this is a 3,000 psi pressure washer. There's a lot of electronic devices under the hood. You really need to be careful with what you're spraying. Whenever I use a pressure washer under the hood, I try to avoid spraying directly on stuff like the ECU and little computer controlled devices, solenoids, plugs, anything that's electronic, because that pressure washer will cause damage to electronic components. It's important to spray everything off, but you've got to be very careful with what you're actually spraying. With 3,000 psi, it's really good for taking off grease and oil too that's on the engine, but it'll also take off painted surfaces and emblems and other things that might be under the hood. And the outside, we're just wetting down the body. We'll fast forward through this part. Now, you got to be real careful when you're using a pressure washer inside a vehicle. This thing will blow holes in carpets, it'll blow holes in the plastic paneling, the upholstery, door panels, speakers, I mean, you name it. This has the power to destroy all of it, so you've got to be real careful with what you're spraying. But there was hay in the back of this still, there was all kinds of dirt, there was grease from hauling things, it was just nasty inside. It needed a lot of cleaning, a lot of scrubbing. And the pressure washer at the time just seemed like the quickest, fastest, easiest way to do it. So don't try this at home with your personal vehicle. And again, just like under the hood, there is Nevada silt on everything. It's in the speaker grills, it's in the door panels, it's in every pocket, cubby, nook, net, roof panel, door panel. I mean, it is just on everything. And just like under the hood, you can't just blow it off with the pressure washer. You really got to scrub it to get this stuff off. And the best part is it gets wet and it all collects on the floor and just turns into a big mud puddle on the floor. So that all had to be vacuumed out as well. But the pressure washer worked good to blow off the silt that's on the hinges and a lot of the door frames, all that stuff that was hard to get to. But it's going to need to be cleaned again. This was cleaning number one. It probably needs this 2 or 3 more times really to get all that silt off of everything. That stuff is really fine. It's all in all the ductwork. It just gets everywhere. I probably wouldn't do this with a normal vehicle, but this is a Jeep, so I'm sure it can handle it. The inside of the car is now clean. This was a brilliant idea. I don't know why I didn't think of this before. There were some issues though. The pressure washer's got so much pressure it blows all the dirt off the floor right onto the dashboard, onto the seats, and everywhere else around the interior. That's just part of the side effect of having too much fun. If you are thinking about doing something like this, just remember there is a muddy lake that seemed to appear a couple times a day. I had to keep vacuuming it out. And there is this white crusty stuff in the seat. The pressure washer didn't even touch that. I don't know what it is, but I could not get it off. Stuck there in the seat. We're vacuuming it up, trying to dry off the seats as much as possible. I had the car running the heater, again to help dry the interior out. I was pretty surprised. There was some grease rings right here. You can see the outline a little bit on there still, but it was some pretty dark greasy stuff that was on there from hauling some parts around at work. But the pressure washer blew a lot of that stuff off, and it did a good job cleaning it. And amazingly, I was a little bit afraid that it would blow a hole in the interior, and it didn't blow a hole in the carpet or the upholstery, so that was good. So for scrubbing interior panels, I like using these brushes with really tall bristles on it. I get them a little bit wet, scrub it out. It really works good to clean in the door panels, especially in the textured areas of the plastic. It gets, again with the silt, it really gets in there and cleans it out. Door pockets, cleans around the switches. It does a pretty good job with the big, deep bristles on it. Having a smaller brush too with bristles works good to get in some of the door pockets and some of the smaller areas that are harder to get with a big bristle brush. This brush with the long bristles works good on the interior too, around the radio knobs, the HVAC knobs, a lot of the controls. It cleans around the knobs, it cleans the knobs, it cleans in the crevices, it cleans in the air vents, it just works to clean everything. It scrubs a lot of the dirt off, a lot of the grease. It works really good in tight places. I know it may not seem like it, but that was a good probably 3-4 hours of cleaning. Of course, an hour of that was spent trying to get all the sap off the bodywork, because that stuff just does not want to come off. 2 tanks of gas in the pressure washer to do the inside, the outside. We still didn't even get to the bottom. We got a lot of the grease out of the interior and a lot of the dirt out of the interior, but it's definitely not perfect yet. But a little more work and probably clean it 3-4 more times, it'll be clean. The floors are still pretty dingy, even though they're scrubbed. I put some leather conditioner on the seats, on the leather seats. Soaked in and helped them a little bit. There's still dirt, there's still mud, there's still stuff stuck in a crevice, even though I scrubbed it with a brush. But that's how the silt is. It just gets everywhere. It does not want to come off. Even though I wiped everything down with a towel, all the plastics, the carpets, we used the shop vac to suck out as much of the water out of the carpet as we could. Ran the heater forever. It was still about 4 or 5 days of running the heater before the truck actually got dry inside. It was still kind of wet for days later, but once it dried though, the carpets, the interior, everything looked a lot nicer. The steering wheel still has some gook on it. Like I said, it's not perfect. It's going to need to be cleaned a few more times before it actually looks really nice, but a huge improvement over where it was. In the next episode, we changed oil in the engine, which is only about a year overdue. I'm sure that had no effect on the longevity of the Hemi. We also serviced the transmission without blood bathing the driveway. Yeah, not going to happen. Please hit that subscribe button and watch for the next video. Until then, we'll see you next time.